this episode to everybody who attends. So if you want to just sit back and relax and have a glass of wine and enjoy, you're more than welcome to do so. And then you'll have the recording to watch later on. For those of you who aren't aware, we are the Florida Center for Hormones and Wellness, a hormone clinic in Dr. Phillips, Florida. And we've been doing the Wellness Matters event now for about a year and a half, bringing a new wellness speaker into your homes. Before, it used to be into our office every single month, where we would bring somebody who is an expert in their field to come talk to you about different ways that you can stay healthy and live an amazing life. And this month is no different. We are sad that we're not all together, but that's okay. When you have to be creative, you get creative. And so Jon is actually about 8 feet from me in my kitchen, where he is going to be cooking in just a few minutes. But before he starts, I just want to let you know a couple things. First of all, we are recording. So if you're not comfortable with being in the recording, just go ahead and keep your camera off and no one will ever know you're here. Second of all, we will be taking questions. So whether you have a question about the making of the dish, go ahead and put that in the chat box. I'll be sitting right here watching for your questions, and I'll interrupt Jon while he's cooking to ask him if you've got any questions about the actual cooking. If it's something about just general cooking, or how he prepares dishes or anything like that, we'll go ahead and hold those till the end when the recipe is completely made. But go ahead and write your questions as you think of them. Right now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my friend, Jon Barr, who brings over 20 years in the food industry to the table, from fine dining to casual gourmet. Jon has trained restaurant staffs from the ground up and traveled all over the world experiencing and cooking global cuisine. And now he landed in Orlando, Florida, in my kitchen. How lucky am I? Simultaneously to being an amazing cook, he also has a very busy career as a professional actor and singer. And has actually aided him in focusing on clean eating and getting creative with cooking to achieve amazing flavors while still being nutritious and while making food the star of the show. If you haven't checked out his Instagram, I highly recommend it. It's at Jon Cooks Here. And all I can tell you is that I warn you, if you go look at it, you will leave hungry. So be prepared to eat when you're done. And Jon is also a very talented board maker, and he's going to bring us charcuterie boards to you at the end of this episode so that you can see an example of his work. But if you want to check it out, you can go to his website, journeyacrosstheboard.com. You can see what he has prepared, and you can purchase them, and I guarantee you won't be disappointed. Now, I'm going to shut up because you did not come here to listen to me talk. You came here to listen to Jon talk. So I'm going to put myself on mute. Since you guys are going to be making noise in the kitchen, do me a favor, keep yourselves on mute. If you've got something to say, put it in the chat box. I'm going to be here watching. And Jon, it's all yours.
Well, hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Let me know and give Jody a thumbs up if you can all hear me. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, we got some thumbs up, hopefully so. Or wave your hands high in the air if you can't hear me. I don't want to shout, but I want to make sure that if you are cooking along, awesome, thumbs up I'm getting. If you are cooking along, please, by all means, put something in the question and answer box or in the comment box to Jody and tell me to slow down, or be like, wait, how did you boil that water? Doesn't matter, just let me know and we'll go back and we'll talk about it. And any questions while I'm going, I can multitask. So go for it. Official big title for the dish, it doesn't have a fancy title. I came up with it because it was just stuff I love to eat. My favorite thing, like whenever it says, what is your favorite comfort meal? Growing up and today is a bowl of pasta and meat sauce. Like spaghetti bolognese was like it all the time. It was what I got room service on the ships, whatever. So this is kind of a version of that. The pasta I'm using is a chickpea pasta from this company called Banza. We're not sponsored or anything, but it's great because a lot of times with the gluten-free pasta, it gets really mushy. A lot of the rice pastas and your water turns all murky. I like the way this one works out, but you can't cook it too long. And then we are doing that with a plant-based sausage. We are using a company called Beyond Meat, which you're probably familiar with. It's in all the grocery stores. And this is a Beyond sausage. I chose the spicy one. the mild one as well. These are still a little frozen, but honestly, I keep these in the freezer, and you can just pop them in the pan from the freezer. Just takes a few more minutes, cover it up, and you can cook them as well. Again, not something you have to prep ahead of time. What's going on? Oh, there was I was like, there was a fly, but we're good. The fly was wearing a mask, so we're safe. And then sauce-wise, we're doing like a basic pomodoro. I kind of took this recipe from Maria Batali, and it's basically a mirepoix, so it's going to be celery, carrot, onion, garlic, some avocado oil, and then the tomatoes, and then some fresh herbs. And then at the end, we are going to either dollop the ricotta on top, or we're going to stuff the rigatoni. Easy peasy. All I use is actual a regular Ziploc bag. And then I take the ricotta, I put it in the bag, I cut off a corner of the bag, and I put in the little rigatoni. It's fun for you to do, for the kids, but if you don't have time, you can just dollop that ricotta on top. It's still going to taste the same. It just depends on the texture. We're going to go over all of that again. I was just kind of running down the, the syllabus. I haven't been in college for so long, but that's the syllabus now. So let's start in. If we're ready, here we go. So the first thing, oh, and then the last thing is that to get our veg in, this is Romanesco. So hopefully some of you found it, usually from Sprouts, they carry it there, a couple other places. But Romanesco, it's kind of a hybrid between cauliflower and broccoli. It has the same nuttiness and cleanness of cauliflower, but it has more of the green and good for you content in it. And the cool thing about cauliflower, if you have cauliflower, which I said was a good backup, and Romanesco, is it has all these amazing stems on it, which normally, including myself, we would just cut and discard and then just cook the rest. But the cool thing is that you can actually roast the whole thing. So I'm going to cut it up and roast the whole thing, just a little oil, salt, and pepper. And in about 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes, it's going to have this amazing texture and flavor. And we're going to add that to the pasta dish as well. So let's start right in on that. For this one, I tend to use a knife with a point just so I can get in there and get those stems off and separate it. But honestly, it doesn't have to be neat and clean. None of this does. It's a rustic dish, as they say. So I'm just going to cut the stems off of the head of the Romanesco. And a lot of times when I say Romanesco, I think people envision that it's a fancy sauce, but this is actually called Romanesco. I didn't Google the history of it, so somebody Google it, we'll talk about it, about why it's called Romanesco. But all I know is it's pretty and it tastes darn good. So I'm just gonna throw that little bit off that's the in-between part, just so it's clean. And so basically then you have the, what's that? You're preheating? Awesome. Okay, so I have the head and we're good to go. And then I have all the stems. You don't need to do much with the stems because they're already in bite-sized form. So I take a regular pan, and I apologize, I didn't tell you all the equipment you'll need. Hopefully it's close by. If not, we're casual. We're casual, we'll make it work. You can also saute it, but I think it's one thing that can just be going while we're doing the sauce. And also there's a certain flavor you get from roasting veggies that you won't get from sauteing them. So I'm just sprinkling on the pan, got some foil down with the leaves and stems. And then I'm just gonna chop up the head a little bit just to make it bite-size. Again, rustic, doesn't have to be, you don't want it too small because you want it to still stay together. And then we'll cut that one more time. That one more time, bite-size, you know, so it still looks good for the picture. About so. Bite-sized piece that you can put your fork into. And remember, it's going to shrink a little bit in the oven too. So I just put that all on the pan. Easy peasy like that. Clean up our pan a little bit. Awesome. And then I was about to pour the wine on it. That's a different dish. We'll do that tomorrow. But I was like, oh, here's the olive oil. That's what happens when you take your glasses off, kids. I use avocado oil. Much better for a keto diet. Much better for your heart, your arteries, all that kind of stuff. And the other cool thing about avocado oil is there's a high smoke point. So when you're putting something like this in the oven, a lot of times if you put something in the oven or in a cast iron pan with olive oil, not saying olive oil is bad for you, but the smoke point is lower, and that's when you tend to smoke up your kitchen, fire alarm goes off, all that kind of stuff. So keep it for salad dressings and like a light cooking. If you're doing a high cook, which we're doing on this, the oven's at about 375. You're just gonna drizzle that avocado oil over, and it's rich and golden, and it doesn't really taste just like avocado to me. And then once the oil is on there, that's when it's kind of the glue, and that's when I just S&P it or salt and pepper it. A little bit of that. Where did my salt go? It was that grinder that was right. Is it over there? It is. Awesome sauce. And a little bit of salt, not too much, because honestly, when you roast everything, the flavor of everything increases. Same thing if you're like ever baking potatoes or making baked French fries. If you over salt something before it's done, it's just gonna taste like it's for dinner. It's gonna taste like a salt lick. So do that kind of stuff afterward. But for this, a little salt and pepper, the avocado oil, and there's one more thing I was gonna do. Oh yeah, the turmeric. That was in the cover. So I think I mentioned this, and if I didn't, don't worry about it. But if you're not familiar with turmeric, it's an anti-inflammatory, not necessarily for the sprinkling that I'm going to put on the dish. You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I can move my joints now. But it adds a really cool, I know some people don't like the Indian flavor. I want to say Indian flavor, but it has kind of a cuminy, earthy, umami flavor, and it adds some nice colors. So it's got that yellow golden mustard kind of thing. And I'm just going to sprinkle that on top as well. And then I'm just going to toss it. So it gets covered and we're good to go. And then I'm going to quick wash my hands. So hold tight, be right back. I'm back. Did you miss me? All right, so that is all set, and we can go ahead and pop that in the oven. So I will do that off camera because it's behind the camera. And that's in, again, 375 for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. That's something you can check, and we can even turn the light on in the oven if there is, and just kind of make sure. As long as it's not literally you can't identify it, you're good. A little bit of char on there goes a long way. All right, so that is done. You've already finished one of the things. Water is boiling now. If you don't already have water boiling, go ahead and do that. I do a little bit of salt. Do not look at the pot, it won't boil. We know that, right? But I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in, and I'm gonna keep an eye on it. Pay attention to what it says on the packages, especially with the gluten-free pastas. They know, because they know that gluten-free pastas are infamous for being mushy. So they're gonna tell you. And there's actually, isn't it crazy that there's 13 grams of protein in an average thing of pasta? That sounds crazy, right? But even an elephant gets protein, he doesn't eat meat. So it's in there. Banza has 23 grams of protein in a serving. So you don't have to worry about putting all that crazy meat on it. It says about 6 minutes on here. All right, yeah, so 7 to 9. So at 7 minutes, you're pretty good. In fact, even at 6, you want it to be a little more al dente on this one, especially because we're gonna try to stuff those rigatoni. So if the rigatoni is mushy, you know as soon as you put a little bit of cheese in there, it's gonna fall apart. Again, it will taste the same and you'll still be loved. But let's do it a little bit more al dente, so about 5, 5.5, 6 minutes. Let's check it to the juice, al dente. So I'm gonna throw it in. For those of you who don't know how to boil water, we're gonna do a special show tomorrow. We'll talk about that. But I think we're good to go. All right, so that's the Banza rigatoni, that's in. And right now it is 6:17, so we'll look at like 6:22, and my assistant will give me a hands up maybe on 5:2. Let's go ahead and start in on the sauce. So for the sauce, basic mirepoix that I said, and mirepoix meaning 3. So celery, some fabulous colored carrot, and where is it? And red onion. So those are the 3 things. Oh yeah, and garlic, as much as you want. So those are the main things that I like to put in my base of pretty much everything. The amount of flavor you'll get from those things, in addition to some parsley at the end, you will not have to add as much seasoning, salt, pepper, all the rest of the stuff. So that's the great thing about it. Just a rough chop on the celery. See, this is when I start to really feel like a TV chef, when I'm actually cutting on camera and talking. Because that's always been like, hey, are they like literally doing that and then talking about their stuff? I'm like Bobby Flanner right now. But I have about 2 stalks of celery, about 2 small carrots, average carrots. For the red onion, I love red onion. So I might put at least half, if not the whole thing in there, because I like this sauce to be rustic and chunky. This is not going to be a smooth sauce. And those ends are knobbly. So celery's done. Carrots, just gonna cook those. And again, you can have them if you want, but why give yourself extra work? Just some small discs on there will be fine as well. Have a good knife. I was talking earlier to Jody about these knives. I use Cutco knives. I'll just keep dropping advertisements and see if anyone picks this up. But if you're not familiar with Cutco, they're great. My grandmother used Cutco, my mom used Cutco. They're generational knives. And I have an amazing guy that's a representative here in town. He comes over safely and sharpens them every few months. And then if they're too dull, they send them off and I just pay the shipping and I basically get a brand new knife. So they're lifetime knives, heirloom knives. And it's just an amazing thing. I think it actually makes me be more excited to cook when I have a knife that does what I want it to, instead of getting frustrated and being like, oh, I'll just throw the whole thing in. So carrots and celery done. For garlic, everyone has their way. I know when I grew up, my mom had me use that garlic press thing, the silver thing that we're all used to. None of that is really necessary. I'm gonna do about 3 of these guys. I like to have, 4. I like to have a lot of garlic in my dishes. So I just take the garlic cloves, skin on, the whole thing, and I just put them on the board and I just whack them. And then you can literally take the garlic out of there and you're done. Same kind of thing with this one, just whack it. Remember whack-a-mole? Do they still have whack-a-mole? They do. And then 2 other ones, whack them and get that garlic. So many good uses for garlic. I do put them in my smoothies in the morning every once in a while, but that will stay with you. That's good for you. All right. So garlic's done, and even it's whacked, I'm just gonna give it a little bit more of a chop, just so it doesn't burn as quickly, because burned garlic is not a good thing. Let's turn our pan on. That one is this quadrant.
Hey, John.
That quadrant and that quadrant.
Hey, John, I've got a question.
We have a question. What's the question?
How long does the cauliflower roast?
I say about 15 to 20 minutes on 375, probably 20. You can even go a little longer with the roasting. I just keep an eye on it. Like I said, you just want a little bit of char on it and get that roasted flavor. It's honestly gonna change consistency. It's not gonna go full mush like if you put it in the microwave or if you saute it too long. By putting it in the oven, it actually changed the consistency. So a little bit of the char and the I don't want to say crispiness, but the brittleness of the stems and the leaves will add a whole new texture to your dish. So to answer your question, about 20, and at 20 minutes, check in on it. You might go to 25 or 30, depending on how much you want to roast it. You can always take a piece. So start at 20, check it out. How are we doing on pasta? Probably like another 2 minutes, I think. Yeah, let me stir that real quick. And again, I try to make these dishes as easy as possible, and also use as few pots and pans as possible. So if you want to do this all in one pot, you can. You can just saute the cauliflower Romanesco. You can do all that in the pan, then add this, then add that. But we're going to try to do it in a couple of pans just because I want that extra flavor. Oh yeah, I knew I was missing something. Onion. So onion cutting. I think I've watched enough Food Network to know how to cut an onion, or at least trying to cut an onion. So I cut off the top, and then once I cut off the top, I just peel down the outer layer. That's the easiest for me. And then once you do that, I have it and do the whole Bobby Flay technique. It's probably not his. But yeah, and I also find that when you cut off the top and then cut it side down, there's a few less tears going on. There's something about, because I wear readers now, I'm not wearing them now, so I think the camera's right there. But somehow, like when I'm wearing the readers, it actually acts as a goggle thing, and I don't get as much of a crying thing. Clayton's already crying behind the camera. I think he's just crying at how beautiful this dish is. But should I get closer? Like, are you crying at home now? So for the onion, I go ahead and cut it in half. And so then you have 2 halves there. And then I do, if you haven't done this before, kind of the slice through that way and the slice through that way. So that way, when you go down, you already have the onion sliced thin and small, and you don't have to spend a million years doing it. So we'll just do one more slice through the middle. Because again, the onion is going to melt down, so it doesn't need to be tiny diced. Rough chop with all of that is fine. I think that looks good. So probably half the onion. I don't want to kill anybody. So this, saran wrap is your friend for at least 1 day, 2 days. Saran wrap, onion is not your friend, but saran wrap and onion, we'll do that. We'll give it to the cat. All right, so for our sauce basic, let's see if our pan is heated up. That pan is popping. You want the pan to be medium. It depends on your pan. If you are using a ceramic, let me check on that pasta. If you're using, oh yeah, this is good to go. If you're using a ceramic cast iron, which I like to use a lot, like a Mario Batali kind of thing, you definitely don't want to heat it past medium. It's already going to self-contain its own heat. This is a pretty good pan, so I don't want it to be too hot. Because what will happen if it's too hot is as soon as you put that produce in there, it's just going to burn up, especially the garlic. And then you're basically just going to have to start over. So this is a spider. If you don't know what a spider is. And I like to use it because it's one less thing that you have to get out. You don't have to get a colander out. The other good thing about using a spider is that then I already have my pasta water. And that pasta water is going to be an easy ingredient, especially if you don't have broth or anything else, to add a little bit to your sauce and thin it out when you're trying to make it last to feed the poor. No, but when the sauce is just too thick. So that pasta water already has that starch in it, and it's chickpea starch, which, by the way, is called aquafaba. Did we know that? Is that a new word for the day? But yeah, the water from chickpea is actually called aquafaba, and you can actually use it. I don't know how that got in there. You can actually use it to make different hummuses and different kind of recipes as well. So like when you have the can of chickpeas and with all of that milky jelly liquid in there, save that. Google aquafaba, and you can make some stuff. All right, I think I got almost all the noodles out of there. And again, let Jody know if you have any questions or if I've skipped over something, because I'm kind of doing this on, what do you say, robot, because I've made this dish a bunch of time before. So the pasta's good. It's probably a minute over where I want it to be, but that's fine. And I'm gonna let that cool down just a bit because we were gonna stuff those, or at least a few of them. And I'm gonna go ahead and take that water off the stove because you don't need pasta water to be hot. It's fine being room temp. And this is a little too hot, so let me turn that down a little bit. I'm going to turn that down a little bit, and then while we're waiting for that pan to cool down a little bit, before I throw the sauce in, I'm going to go ahead and go with my tomatoes. So if you were consulting the recipe, I have a can of tomatoes as well. I like to do organic, pretty much everything, but this is crushed tomatoes. I do the no salt version. I didn't get the no salt version, but I normally do the no salt version because I like to add my own seasoning. But more again is great. They don't have too many, the sodium is not as high as the other companies. I like the crushed as opposed to the dice. It feels more rustic. And then I like to add these beautiful cherry tomatoes too. It adds a little bit of sweetness. If you ever made a pasta sauce before, and a lot of times people say, oh, add a little bit of sugar to balance out the acidity of the tomato sauce. If you use these cherry tomatoes, they have a higher sugar content because they're smaller, so it's concentrated, and that way you won't have to add actual sugar. So it's kind of like nature's sugar. Isn't that fun? It's a fun tip. So it doesn't matter what you add, red or yellow, but for these, you can put them in whole. I'm just gonna do like literally a rough chop on them, just so they start, what do you call it, like bleeding into the other tomatoes, so to speak. Just get all the green off of them. I'll do some yellow on there too, why not? Color is good when you eat, right? Because we eat with our eyes first. So that's always important, which is the whole basis of Instagram. And speaking of Instagram, yeah, like John Cooks Here is my main Instagram. I used to post every day when we were in the heat of the pandemic, not that we're not now, but I just have other things that I've been working on. So I've been working on these charcuterie boards. And so I've taken off of John Cook's here a little bit. However, I'm going to be getting back to it and working with some fun brands. So I'm just going to go in through these tomatoes and literally just having them, quartering them, just getting them open so that way, like I said, they just bleed into the sauce a little more. And you don't have to, ooh, I just got squirted. That was a clown nose moment, ladies and gentlemen. But those are good. Let me get this guy. And now we're just gonna kind of put everything in there and start to make our sauce and let it simmer. What am I forgetting? Oh yeah, before that, hold off on that because speaking of one-pot meals, we're gonna go ahead and make the sausage. So whatever kind of meat or protein you have, and again, this is optional. You don't have to add sausage or meat, but this is the Beyond Sausage. If you're just joining us, it is a great product. There is no soy in this. I don't cook with soy, gluten, GMO, all that stuff. And they're a pretty decent company. They've gotten really big. And so these were actually frozen, I would say 20 minutes ago, and they're already defrosted, but even if they have some freeze to them, you can still put them straight in the pan. They will just take a couple more minutes. So for this, it's as simple as sauteing. I'm just gonna put a little bit of the avocado oil on the pan. And that is already bubbling, so it's a hot pan. And then I'm literally just gonna take them whole and put them in. So those are in there, and the only thing that I love Tom's, by the way, they're like a best man's friend. I think it's all my years in Japan. I love chopsticks, so these are great for picking up trash. Short. The only thing you want to make sure is just keep turning them. A little char on there is good. You just don't want them to be black. Black's not good with sausage. You just want to keep them where they got a nice brown. They'll crisp up a little bit. And when they crisp up on the outside, they're pretty much done. You don't have to do like, oh, are they cooked in the center? Because again, it's not meat. You can eat them raw. They're fine. So sausage is cooking. Pasta is done and waiting to be stuffed. Sauce is waiting. So while the sausage is cooking, how are we doing on the Romanesco? Is it looking black or brown? It's good. All right, we'll give it a few more minutes. Let's talk about the pasta. We're going to do some stuffing. So for this, there are two different plant-based ricotta that I like. Regular ricotta is fine. I would definitely use a full-fat ricotta and not the part skim if you're using dairy. It just keeps together, and unless you're putting it in like lasagna, it's going to be your friend. With the plant-based one, Kite Hill is my favorite, and then there's another one called Heavenly Delight. I believe I'm saying that right. And I know they have it at Whole Foods. It's a little more expensive, but it's great. It's made of cashews and a bunch of other good stuff. No soy, and a little bit goes a long way because it's got a lot of flavor. You can eat this out of the tub with just some fruit and peaches, and it's great. Like, I've fooled people, and they're like, that's not, I'm like, no, it's not real. I mean, it's real, like Pinocchio is real. All right, so a little bit of ricotta. I grab a Ziploc bag, and again, you don't have to do this. We can just dollop the ricotta on it at the end. And I say ricotta because I'm like Giada. If you want to say ricotta, I'm not going to be angry. You can say ricotta. You can call it Bob. So I take a little Ziploc bag, and you're kind of making your own little pastry thing. So I take, I'd say about half the container, and just kind of squeeze it down there at the bottom. Smush it up a little bit. Yeah, easy peasy. I mean, this kind of is the fun part. Let's double check those sausages. Yeah, see, they're already browning up. It's so fast. And when I cook, I don't talk this much, so this would probably already be done. But yeah, I just flip them over. And I need to turn off the pasta. Where's off? There's off. Let's not burn the house down. All right, so once you have your smushed Ziploc there, or again, don't have to do this. I just cut a tiny little piece. Tiny little piece. because they're going in a small noodle at the end. And then just grab one of your firm al dente pastas. And then you're just gonna, a little bit. It doesn't need to be stuffed shells. This is a little bit of flavor, just going and gives a different texture. So that's squeezed on in. Awesome. And that's good. So it's like a 1/4 teaspoon in there, just a little bit of flavor. And then probably have a plate. Let me grab that one other white plate. Where's that flat one up here? Uno momento, gang. So just a plate that I can keep those pastas on, and I can throw a piece of foil on while we're waiting to add all the other ingredients. So pasta's done. On the, well, the one noodle is done. So it depends on how many you want to make. You can also do both. You can stuff like 10 of them for a presentation for your gram, and then you can just dollop some more on top if you don't want to spend your time stuffing 35 rigatoni for every person or however many you're making. Yeah, and using your hand on here will actually warm it up and make it a little more liquid to get in there. Yeah, and if a little comes out on the side, it's totally fine. See there? You see that? Is that in focus? Beautiful. And again, if your pasta breaks, you know what, and you want to stop with the stuffing, stop with the stuffing. It's just something fun. And then if you have little Timmy and little Bobby at home, why is it always little Timmy and Bobby? They can be like, hey, do you want to stuff the rigatoni? And then they can be part of the meal and be like, hey, shake and bake, and I help. I'm so old. Just Jody laughing. It's like one voice. If you say a joke in the forest, doesn't make a sound. So yeah, so I am like literally putting just a little bit in there, because if you do start to put too much in, you're just gonna break every single noodle. And then you have, what was that dish we had as a kid? Turkey tetrazzini, which is basically like overdone pasta because it was just these pieces of pasta. I think I got that at like the cafeteria at school. Jody, you got any questions while we're stuffing?
So yeah, I mean, I've got a question.
Yeah, no, throw them at me.
Let's say you've got a favorite family recipe, brought down from generations prior to you, but it's really unhealthy. What can you do to turn that favorite recipe into a healthy dish?
Can't really hear you, but I think you said, how do you make a regular recipe plant-based? Was that the question?
Sure.
I'm trying to hear you over the sizzle. Yeah, so that is actually, these are almost done, by the way. I'm just gonna let those go like another minute or two. So when I answer this question, take those out. That's actually one of my favorite things to do, is to take recipes that I either grew up with or I like having in a restaurant, a la spaghetti bolognese or fettuccine bolognese, and turn it into something else. Not just because it's better for you, plant-based and all that kind of stuff, but also because it's kind of fun. So it almost becomes a little bit of a challenge to be like, hey, look at this, I take this and I made it, and it still tastes good. I think all these things, for the most part, are alternatives and not replacements. It's the same thing I say about my cheese on Journey Across the Board. When I do my plant-based cheese boards, because I do omnivore as well, I don't want to fool anybody. That's not the job of what it is. It's an alternative to say like, hey, you know what, I want to eat better, or I care a little bit more about the environment, and the dairy market and the meat market are doing this or doing that, whatever. And finding a way to have something that still tastes good. Because right, if it tastes good, then we're cool. I think that's kind of the only rule. Well, price-wise. So if we can afford it and it tastes good, we'll eat it. I don't really think there's anything else that you need. And so my favorite things to do are pasta and meat sauces, because the faux meats are great when you put them in something else. This particular sausage is great on its own. You can slice this up and put it with eggs in the morning. You can make it into a sandwich and melt a little either a fontina dairy or a plant-based mozzarella and put that and make a sausage and add some peppers to it and have sausage and peppers. Like there's so many things you can do with these Beyond Meat products, or any of the full meat products, because there's about, I'd say about 4 or 5 of the meat products that are not soy now and not gluten. So, and the sodium's low. So it's kind of like, why aren't we eating that? So yeah, so I love kind of taking things and twisting them on their head, and then just taking that pyramid 5 food group thing we had growing up and throwing that out the window and saying, hey, just get more veg in your diet. Find out if it's a low glycemic, like blueberries are great for keto, low glycemic, things like that. I use a lot of date syrup instead of honeys, and date syrup is just dates macerated, and it's 40% low sugar, less sugar than honey. Honey is super high in sugar, not keto's friend. It's also not vegan because it's an animal product. You see? All right, let's take the sausage out. Yeah, these are way done. So show those to the camera, I think. Can you see those? Yeah? Yeah, so you see they got a little bit of black and charred or crispy, and you really would not know, especially because that's why I like the spicy ones. The spicy add more flavor, and I think they guise a little more of the, hey, that's not meat. But it tastes like meat. At least, and I think so because I'm not vegan. So that's fair, right? So all that saucy goodness, we're gonna take those and just put the sausage to cool down a bit in a separate plate, because we're gonna slice it up. You could do it now, but I'm not a real chef, so I don't wanna burn my hands off. So I'm gonna let these cool down just a little bit. And you can, yeah. Let me finish this real quick, but you can leave all that good sauce in there because that's just a little avocado oil and some of the plant-based meat juice. Sounds weird, but you can leave that in there. And then Jody, real quick before we get to your question, I am just gonna throw, now I love these. If you don't have one of these, you can, they sell them, this is like a fancy one, but you can get one for like $2 at Walmart. And it's just a scraper to pick everything up. That's all it is. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick up everything we already chopped, which is, I'm gonna leave the tomatoes to the side just for a moment. And I'm gonna put in the celery, the garlic, the carrots, and the onion. And we already got that oil and meat juice in there, and you're gonna see this sizzle up. It already smells amazing. Here, I'm gonna be a food chef. I wish you guys could be here. Oh, the smell, it's intoxicating.
I can vouch for it. It totally smells amazing in here. I'm getting very hungry.
So that is good to go. And I'm just gonna give it a stir. And I'm just gonna let that go for like a minute or two and let it sweat, chefy term, and let it soften. And then once it softens, I'm gonna start to add both the canned tomatoes and the tomatoes. But let's go to Jody. What you got?
Daniela says, loving all the things that she does. And Patrick says, John is alone. But our question comes to Yolanda, and she says, who is your favorite celebrity chef and why?
My favorite celebrity chef and why. It goes back and forth. I haven't watched as much Food Network these days, but I think I have a secret crush on Giada, just because she's talking and saying, hello, how are you? My name is Giada. Tonight we're gonna cook spaghetti. It literally changes into the Italian dialect only for pasta words, and everything else doesn't have it. So I find that charming. And I like the way she cooks. She's one of the celebrity chefs where I've made them, I've tested them out, and they taste just like she says they do. There's a lot of time you'll see something on Food Network or whatever recipe book, and then you have to read the comments to be like, hey, don't add this, don't add that. Put about 4 cups of sugar in there, otherwise it's gonna taste like, what? So with Giada stuff, it always comes out great. And her stuff is simple, there's nothing crazy about it. I would say like favorite celebrity chef that I wanna like hang out with and have a glass of wine, that would probably be Mario Batali. We're sticking Italian, aren't we? But I just think that he's cool. I've run into him a couple of times at Italy up in New York, which is a great Italian market. and he just seems very down to earth, and he's a billionaire and has amazing restaurants, and you're still down to earth. So I think that says something about you. Yeah, those two. Originally, I would have said Bobby Flay, but I've met Bobby Flay, and he's not as fun in person. Like, he's a good dude. He makes chefy stuff, but he puts that on for the camera a little bit. So I'm not trying to, like, I've just ruined his career. But yeah, so Giada, Mario Batali, those are two good ones. Who's the other one? Oh, also Italian, but Rocco Spirito. He doesn't do as much stuff now, but he has a really good way of like making plant-based stuff. I'll give you a little bit of the camera angle shot there. Look at that beautiful goodness. And you guys, the smell, and look at the color we're already starting with. So you have that purple from the onion, the carrots, and the celery is so green. These are all organic vegetables, which, you know, back in the day, organic was like $12 more. You guys, this organic celery was, I think, $2, and the non-organic celery was $1.49. For 50 cents, make a vote and vote for the organic vegetable, because that's the way it used to be. I tell this story a lot, but back, I remember when organic first became a thing, and organic apples were like $6 a piece. Like, I remember that. And now you can get, what, a bag of organic apples at Trader Joe's for like $2.50. And that's because of supply and demand, so it's all about the vote. So when you go to the market, the stuff that has the skin that you can't eat, so celery, grapes, apples, all that kind of stuff, those are the things you do want to buy organic, because those pesticides, not good for your gut biomes, all that kind of stuff. I'm not the science guy. As Paula Deen says, I ain't a doctor, I'm a chef. But those little things that you can do when you're at the supermarket, your vote counts for what you're buying, and spending an extra 50 cents there or $1 there, you can still be economical. And then you'll see, like, people be like, oh, nobody wants conventional celery, they only want organic, and then it'll change hands, and everything will be better, and we'll live longer, and the world will be amazing. It already is. All right, that. Oh yeah, Jamie Oliver is great. Sorry, I'm like a little, because I'm gonna put the tomatoes in. Jamie Oliver is great as well. I love how simple. Tomatoes going in. I love how simple he is. Not as a person, like he's not simple-minded. Can of tomatoes going in. But what I also like, I'm gonna take this off the heat so I can show you those whole tomatoes are in there. So I'm just gonna crush them down. And you'll notice I haven't put salt and pepper in here yet. You do want to do it in layers, so I'm about to. But a lot of recipes will say, like, oh, in each step add salt and pepper. Each step add salt and pepper. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think like every other step. So we did about 2 or 3 steps here, and then I'm gonna add salt and pepper. But Jamie Oliver is great that he does a lot of plant-based things, a lot of vegetable-driven. So his show that I believe is on Netflix, he just filmed some new episodes, and they're great. And he does a lot of what I do, or maybe I do a lot of what he does, where he'll take something and turn it on its head and make it plant-based. How is that Romanesco looking in there? Like, is it getting a little charry? Hold on a second, kids. I just want to make sure that, yeah, let's go ahead and, so what I'm doing is I'm actually feeling it a bit with my safe gloves. And seeing if it's like mushing down, and it's not. Let's give it about 3 more minutes. But what is happening in there is that the leaves and the stems are already starting to get like a black char on it, and that's what you want. That's not like a time to stop. We're gonna recycle this, I'm assuming, so we'll put that there. We're good with the tomatoes. So the sauce, look at that. I mean, that's already coming into something that, like, if you were at a restaurant and you got a sauce that looked like that, I think you'd be like, whoa, I can't believe Arby's is serving us this. I just ordered the beef and cheddar, and this came out. This is better than horsey sauce and beef and cheddars combined, my friends. I would literally take that sauce and just get a piece of bread, gluten-free or not, and just dip it in the sauce and be done. But because I promise you, we're gonna go back and we're gonna do a few more noodles while that's finishing up. And by noodles, I mean doing a little more stuffing, and we're almost done. We're almost time to present. So we might have time for a charcuterie. And again, just putting a little bit in here. I have about 10 noodles done right now. Some of you might be wondering, because the noodles are cooled down right now. They are cold. But when you add it, let me say this. Normally, I always say, throw the pasta into the sauce and toss it so that everything gets into the little grooves and all that kind of stuff. But with this one, the way I played it, you don't necessarily have to or want to do that, because what will happen is all of that time and energy you spent stuffing those rigatonis, that will come out all into the sauce. Still tastes just as good, but the presentation will be a little different. So I'm just gonna do like about 3 more on these and then call it a day for the pasta at least. And the only other thing that we have to do, just so we know, like if you did buy all the ingredients from the recipe and say like, oh, hey, when are we using this? The only other thing that we're gonna be doing is a little bit of broth or water, a little bit of wine or more water, and parsley. Oh yeah, and red pepper flakes. So those are just the things that are kind of what I call the sauce finishers. And those are all to the taste, because everyone's taste is different. I know some people like things very bland, and some people like a little bit of heat. I think red pepper flakes is probably my favorite thing to use in Italian dishes, because it adds a good amount of heat without setting your mouth on fire. Savory heat, if you will, as opposed to a sweet heat. Just wash my hands a bit. I'll be back with you in a second. Sauce is looking good. I'm adding salt and pepper to the sauce, and I'm also gonna put the red pepper flakes in now. So I eyeball everything, kids. So you're like, how much salt are you putting in? I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. I'm just eyeballing it. You just kind of want to experiment. You can always add more red pepper flakes going in. I do a decent amount, but if you are using a spicy sausage, you won't have to do as much, because you're going to get a lot of heat from that sausage. All right, so that's already got a good reduction on it going on. So what I'm going to do now is add about 4 swallows. No, not about that much wine. Now here's the thing, and Jada says this all the time, and at first I was like, I don't know. When you're cooking with wine, pay attention to if it says sweet wine, dry wine, sure. But do not get a $3 bottle of Trader Joe's Chuck to cook with your wine. And if you're not familiar with Trader Joe's wine, it's literally, it's a golden ticket. Sometimes you'll get a great bottle and sometimes you won't. You do not want to put a bad wine in a dish you work this hard on. And the reason for that is what it will be, the bad wine is usually very sweet or bitter or all those kind of things. That will transfer to your sauce. And you'll be like, this wasn't as good as last time. So you want it to be a good wine. Now that being said, you do not have to use Stag's Leap, Alexander Valley, or anything Opus 1 in your sauce. Quick funny story about that. Girl I was dating at the time, we were making everything. There were 3 different bottles of wine. And I said, hey, use that one. There was a mistake. Long story short, we had a $250 bottle of sauce. My friend Robert, who never lets me live it down, he got this $200 bottle of wine. It was rare, dusty, all that kind of stuff. She put that in the sauce, like 3/4 of the bottle. The sauce tasted fantastic. However, I savored that 1/4 bottle, but still, like you know, anywhere from a $12 to a $20 bottle of wine, you want to use a good wine in your sauce. Yeah. No, you can totally do a white wine as well. You know, red wine and white wine, for those of you who don't know, a lot of times they come from the same grapes. Just because it's a white wine doesn't mean it was white grapes. When the skins are removed, that's the same color. We're all the same color inside. So did there see the parallel? Yeah, for this sauce in particular, I'm doing a Cabernet because I like it to be bold. A Syrah would work really well. And the reason for that is the spice. So it's basically look at the dish and what would you have with the dish normally, and then use that same wine. If you're someone that would have a Pinot Grigio with a red sauce and a spicy sausage, which could still work, then by all means, use the Pinot Grigio. Don't be like, oh, poop, I'm out of cab, I can't make the sauce. Like, still do that. But you see, I think you can see like the boldness at the color of the sauce there, that comes from the wine, the tomatoes. It's Italy in a pan, my friends. Italy in a pan. Or Italy, depending on where you're from. That smells amazing. So I'm glad that I can taste it. And everyone watching, Clayton, my assistant, will be driving to your homes with a sample of, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, so we got pasta done. Romanesco, let's go ahead and pop that out. Where was that oven mitt? Are you good with it? Yeah. So Clayton is just gonna, and he's not really my assistant, I'm joking. He's just helping me out. But yeah, that looks great. So let's go ahead and show that. I'll grab it, or you can, yeah. So we see that. That's a good thing. That is not overdone, guys. These, like, if you can hear that crisp, I think you heard that. But if not, hey, like that crisp and golden color from the turmeric, and none of this is mushy. The oven doesn't do that at that high temp. It's still gonna be unctuous. And honestly, a lot of times when I serve this, this is everyone's favorite part. Awesome. So that can just cool down a bit. The sauce is coming together. The pasta is there. Let's go ahead and chop up about this much parsley. Let's say that much parsley. So let's get our knife, Cutco knife, name drop. Did you say you had another question, Jody? Oh, yeah. And so for parsley, I'm just going to do the fancy hand on top of the knife thing. You can turn that oven off. Yeah. And just above the stems, although the stems are good for you too, but I understand that some of you have a thing against the stems, but I do everything. And I just do a rustic chop. You don't want it to look like, you don't want to chop the parsley so fine that it looks like the dried jar of parsley that's been sitting in your cupboard for a year. There's really no reason to have that. I'm probably going to open that cupboard, Jody, and find one, right? Okay. There's no reason to have dried parsley, in my opinion, besides presentation, because it has no flavor and it's not good for you. It's not that it's not good for you. There's just nothing really in dried parsley that's going to help you out. So that is our parsley. Get rid of some of the stems. We don't overstem yet. The root of the problem. And then the last thing we're going to do before we assemble, actually, we're going to do a little taste. So I am about to now pass on the secret that was passed on by my ex's Italian dad on the secret to making all sauce. Now the ricotte's already going to take care of this, but at the end, when your sauce is coming together, are you okay? Oh, what? Mine's exploding. I take a little bit of butter. This is a vegan butter. It's called Milkadamia. Yeah, isn't that clever? So it's made from macadamia nuts. So obviously got a high butter fat or nut fat, if you will. So I take about, where'd my spoon go? I take about a tablespoon of butter. Hi, welcome to the Cooking Live. Tablespoon of butter, and then a little stock. You want to use chicken stock, fine, beef stock, but vegetable oil. There's something about the butter and the stock towards the end that's like, it just adds a luxurious flavor to the sauce. So just a little bit, and then you can always add more. And this is where we're going to taste, kids, because we're at that part. So you can see how the sauce is already changing color. It's getting really a deep red, but it still has all those bits of green and yellow and all that veg going on in it, and pieces of tomato. And that's what you want. Rustic dish. Let's do a taste test. Let me get a new spoon. My grandmother would say bluz, bluz, blow on it, bluz. I don't know if that's a Yiddish word or not. Maybe, Jody? I don't know. That's good. I'm gonna put a little more butter in it. Just a little bit, like another tablespoon. And the reason I'm doing that, it's just a little too acidic. But the wine, obviously the tannins brought that in there too. But salt and pepper wise and spice, it's on point. And you'll see it's got a little bit of pinkness now because that butter is in there. So we're not making a cream sauce. I don't want you to think we're making like a vodka sauce. Although where's the vodka? Okay. But the wine is good in there. Like you can taste the grape. It tastes like a wine sauce. I'm gonna leave that alone. It's time to plate. Ooh, sausage. So if you want presentation wise, you can leave these daddies whole. If like, you know, there's 4 people in the family and like everyone gets their own sausage. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. I think it makes it more family style. You can cut it any way you want. I'm probably gonna go the route of get a new knife. Still relatively clean. Yeah, these are easy to touch. I kind of do like a little bit of an angle just to make it a little nicer. Yeah, so you just have these guys, and then it looks prettier on the plate. Because even if you're not posting on Instagram nightly, like the rest of the kids, you still want it to look good. And sometimes you have to kind of make a dish look good for you. You know, even if I'm at home and I'm cooking by myself, which a lot of us are doing during the pandemic, make it presentational for yourself too. Even if you're not posting it, like make yourself a nice dish, put it on the TV table, turn on America's Got Talent or some other godforsaken show, you know, and sit with a glass of sparkling, you know, and then elevate it. Even if you're not doing alcohol, get a glass of sparkling water and just little things like that. Squeeze some lime in it, have it with your dish. Even do like a sparkling rosé with this dish would work really well because that's going to pair in really well with the cab too. All those little kind of things, and you'll be like, wow, I need to eat like that more often. The other cool thing about this, and then we'll assemble, is that everything we've made here, easy breezy CoverGirl. You can put it in an oven-safe container, wrap foil over it when it's done, and then take it out the next day. I would leave it on the counter for a good 20 minutes so it's not ice cold, and then pop it in the oven 25 minutes, and you'll have a brand new, well, not brand new, but a fresh dish from the night before. You can microwave it, but why? You know, you usually have a good 20 minutes, 25 minutes to throw something together. Just put it in the oven in the same dish that you can eat out, and then you can do this kind of thing in front of the TV watching The Bachelor the next night. These are the shows I think you watch. The Bachelor and America's Got Talent, because that's the kind of people that like to be well. When I was a kid, it was Friday night lineup was Muppets, Incredible Hulk, Dallas, Falcon Crest. Love Boat, Fantasy Island on Saturday nights. Yeah, that was the jam. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and assemble this dish. Like I said, I've only kind of done about 12 of the noodles there. We're gonna do this big dish just to make it wow. And turn that stove off. And hang tight. So what happened here, I was like, what is that? Guys, this was one of the noodles that just congealed into like 4 different noodles. It's like when my grandfather was like, did you take the pipic out of the turkey? I was like, when? I was like, is somebody pranking me? Who put the pipic in the sauce? And if you don't know what the pipic is, kids, you know, just like Chip, I'll tell you later. But yeah, that was in there. And it's just noodles that just congealed, but that was just crazy. All right, so to do this, what I like to do is layer it, kind of like lasagna, but not. And it works for presentation-wise, and especially because we're not tossing the pasta in the sauce, like I said, it works to put it in layers so you're not just drenching it over. So I'm gonna take probably about 1/4 of the sauce and lay it in the bowl. So you got a nice layer on the bottom there. Yeah. And then I'm going to take those stuffed rigatonis and I'm just going to put them like so. And then we're going to add the Beyond Meat sausage, which is the spicy and plant-based sausage. And we can slice up another one because, you know, we got a line out front. Every time I think of a line out front of a restaurant, random, has anyone been to one of those barbecue places? This is a great plant-based conversation. But the barbecue places, I think they have them in Texas, in Tennessee, North Carolina, and the pit masters will, you know, barbecue and all night, and people will like Grateful Dead follow and be there at like 6 p.m. the night before, pop up tent like the old school days when we used to sleep out for Best Buy TV on Black Friday, and wait for that barbecue because it tastes so good. And then they sell out at like 11 o'clock and then they go to sleep and do it all over again. So this is just like that. People are outside. And the bad news is it's pandemic, so we can't let them in. They just have to watch it like you. So you get to eat it all, Jody. But the good news is you have the recipe list. And by the way, if anyone has any questions after the fact, I'm sure you can email Clayton or Jody and I can get you a more detailed thing. If you're like, hey, what was that thing you did? Like, I don't have this trademarked. So that's in there. And then we're going to grab some of the Romanesco, which is still hot. And we're going to put that on top. And I'm kind of doing it on the outside. You can do it on the inside. I'm getting different color pieces. I'll show you guys. But I think it looks pretty. It actually looks better than when I made it on Instagram. So looks like maybe you just have to come over to Jody's house, guys. And by the way, Jody's address is 425. Yeah, that's good. All right, and then, then I'm gonna do some more sauce. But before that, so I'm gonna put in just some more of the regular rigatonis, just to kind of get some more pasta in there. Beautiful. And then a little more sauce with a spoon, not with my hand. Sorry, I'm silent. I'm just taking this all in.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. It smells so good in this house.
Are you lying?
I definitely have to have a bite. And for those of you who are cooking at home, does it smell like good in your house as it does over here?
Yeah, give us a thumbs up if it smells good. Just restauranting this dish, expoing it. And the only other thing I put in the recipe is the vegan Parmesan. It's from a company called Violife. They were out of it at both markets I went to today, so I apologize. But if you do have it, or can get it in the future, they usually have it at Sprouts, Whole Foods, sometimes even Target has it. And it's a block of parm. When you shred it, it will fool anyone. It looks, melts, shreds just like parm. This dish doesn't need it. There's so much flavor going on. But if you have it, by all means. Or use a regular parm if you're kind of just doing a 50-50. So the last thing I'm going to do is just take some parsley. And I'm going to do one of these. And then traditional Italian style, I'm going to take some more of my, I was about to say EVOO, my AVOO, my avocado oil, and just drizzle it around. And there is our stuffed rigatoni. Now, the one more thing, I'll do one more thing for presentation's sake. That is, if you didn't stuff the rigatoni or your noodles were breaking, which happens, you can't have too much of this stuff. It's so good. So we'll do one more grand finale. Sorry to be anticlimactic. Okay, and then a little bit of that pepper, which went over here. All right. And there we go. So like I said, if you didn't do those stuffed rigatoni, which is just something extra, so you have those crispy leaves for that texture. I'm big about texture. Those crispy leaves for texture on that Romanesco. It almost turns into bok choy a little bit. If you've had that before, it has that same sort of texture. You have that plant-based meat from Beyond Meat, which is spicy. A pomodoro sauce, technically, with a mixture of carrot, celery, onion, and garlic. Avocado oil and tomatoes, salt and pepper, red pepper flakes, that's it. We have that dairy-free ricotta. It's made from almonds. It will fool anybody. And then the star of our show, the rigatoni from Banza, it is made from chickpeas, guys. It is made from chickpeas. Now, I had some of that pasta water to add and thin out the sauce, but as you can see, it already has kind of a nice texture to it. I don't think it needs any thinning out. You're still going to be able to grab it with a fork. You don't need a spoon. And that's what it's all about. Great family style. And again, you can reheat this the next day and it's going to be amazing as well. So Jody, if you have more questions, or I can grab the board if you want to like segue away from this. Tell me what you'd like to do. Sure. Sure, yeah, because it's a learning curve. And honestly, if you aren't already, I know I'm gonna step off camera to wash my hands real quick, but if you aren't already on Instagram, even if you're not like someone to post or follow all the things, Instagram is great to find recipes, even more so than just a website. You can Google anything. So I'll say those two things to answer your question. The first thing is, if you use Google, DuckDuckGo, any search engine. So you look in your house and you say, hey, I have broccoli, I have chicken, and I have tomato soup. Type all those things in. Google will come up with 2 million recipes that involve those three things. Same thing on Instagram. As far as staples that you would want to keep in your house all the time, because the thing is, not every day you're going to be able to make a recipe. Or you're not going to be like, what was that thing that guy that was kind of funny but not really made the other night? John, I think his name was. I think that's what his Bob. Maybe it was Bob. You might not remember. You might have lost the recipe, whatever it is. But you're like, oh, it was pasta and meat, all those kind of things. So these are the things that I keep in my pantry. I always keep the things that I want to be eating on hand. If you stock up your arsenal with the things that you want to, parentheses, should be eating for whatever, I hate this word, but diet that you're on, then those are the things that you're going to have handy. Make it easy. Things like pasta. And Banza also makes a orzo as well, which can double as rice, which is also made from chickpeas if you want to keep the low glycemic keto kind of thing going. So I always keep pastas on hand, especially gluten-free pastas, because those are the ones I eat. I always keep in my freezer, whenever chicken goes on sale, Beyond Meat sometimes goes on sale, all those kind of things. If you have room in the freezer, buy like 2 or 3 of them. Keep them in your freezer, because like you saw, or like I told you, especially with the Beyond Meat, not necessarily chicken, you don't really have to defrost it fully. It sat on the counter for 20 minutes, I threw it in the pan, and it's delicious. Well, I know it's delicious just by looking at it. And then spices. Always keep a good salt and a good pepper. I normally like a great pepper grinder, gray salt flakes, things that don't have all the bleached iodine and all that kind of stuff in them. Keep those on hand, and then find some good spice blends. The Italian seasoning, there's a great Indian blend seasoning that's escaping me right now, a Greek one, because those kind of things, you can take your dish in any different level. Like you could do these same ingredients and then just do a white wine and avocado oil, and then do like a za'atar, which is almost like a Greek, I believe, spice blend, and do some feta. And then you have this dish, but it's Greek all of a sudden. And that's just because you had one more dried ingredient. So yeah, so for staples, dried ingredients like pastas and rices that are gluten-free or whatever need be, in the freezer, a great thing to keep. You can rice your own cauliflower, but rice cauliflower is so cheap now. You can get organic rice cauliflower, Trader Joe's. They even have it at Walmart. I said the W word, but you can get rice cauliflower that's in a bag. You can take it out and literally throw it in the pan. You don't have to defrost it. All those kind of things. So in my freezer, if you open it, it has frozen chopped spinach. It has frozen rice cauliflower. There's some frozen broccoli florets that are also organic. I tend to like to use fresh, but sometimes you know that fresh stuff goes bad. You didn't get to it, and then you're like, ah, poop, why did I spend $5 on that persimmon and I didn't, eat it? I don't know why persimmon was the first thing. And protein-wise, you can keep them in the freezer too. The Beyond Meat products, any fake meat products, and chicken freezes really well as well. Salmon fillets freeze really well. Put them in individual packs. And that way you can come home and say, what do I want? Do I want Uber Eats? Always an option. But if you don't, you can literally open the freezer and take one thing, put it in the pan, and everything in the same pan, and you have a dish, and you are good to go. So those are some of the things. I have tuna on hand as well. That's great. Cans of chickpeas. I have probably like 12 cans of chickpeas. I use that aquafaba, that liquid in a lot of recipes to make hummuses in addition to the chickpeas. I also use the chickpeas to make a faux tuna salad that is outstanding. I should have the recipe on my Instagram, but I do it with lemon rind and blueberries, and it looks like it's a $35 dish, and it cost me, I think, $3.95. So we were actually toying with doing that, but I wanted something hearty because it's a little cooler, and we only have like 8 cool days. So the canned goods that are good, the tuna, the chickpeas, the frozen veg that will keep organic as well, and then the dried ingredients. And then always keep a good olive oil or avocado oil, and then always have a bottle of wine in case Jody comes over. So yeah, it's those are kind of the staples. I think I over-answered that one. Any other questions or comments, or want to talk about boards, or up to you?
Your board. So guys, John's going to show you his board, and I have to tell you, if you go to journeyacrosstheboard.com, you are going to be blown away by what is available, and it's really affordable. That's the thing that really shocked me, was truly how affordable his boards are. They're all made fresh, delivered to your door. And you can buy from what he's got on the site. You can ask him to make something custom. He's really very versatile, and we're gonna see one right
stuck in there.
now.
Hold on a second.
Right now.
I pack them well. So this is actually going to a guest that is arriving at a Disney resort tonight. So this one in particular, I'll leave it in the box, that's fine. So yeah, okay, come over here. So this one in particular is not one of my traditional boards. I made this one a little more funsy because this one is actually going to a mom and her 6-year-old that are coming for the first time to Disney. And being 20 years with Disney, I thought I'd make it a little more magical. And obviously the kids' palate isn't at the same place of a lot of adults. So yeah, so a lot of fun soft cheeses and some hidden Mickeys here. Look at that. There's his shoes. See the yellow golden berries? Isn't that fun? So this is going to be a traditional board, full dairy and full gluten. My company was actually founded being plant-based. Now, a lot of people, the number one thing I get is, oh, like a crudité platter, like veggies and dip. That's not what a plant-based platter is. That's still a crudité platter. So I found these plant-based cheeses, not in Florida, not in the Southeast, mostly Brooklyn, Portland, Seattle, California. And these companies were amazing and great. They wanted to talk to me about it. They were excited about the plant-based charcuterie business. Because I'll tell you, on hand, there are about 2,200, I think it's 2,200 new charcuterie businesses that have opened since March when COVID happened. Insane. I think because everyone was at home and it's a great socially distanced thing to have when you want something nice and order in, there are 9 of those that are plant-based. And I'm one of them. And that's pretty awesome. I think that's going to change. I think plant-based is going to blow up. It already is in other places, just not here in Florida. The stuff that you can get in the market, Kite Hill, Miyoko's, BioLife, they're okay. They have a couple of block cheeses that are not bad at all. But what I'm going to show you So this isn't on a plant-based board, but this is actually one of the wheels from a company called Rain. I'm pretty sure it's Rain and not Ryan, R-E-I-N-E, right? And these are all small batch, ma and pa, not to demote them, but small companies. This one's out of Ventura, California. They overnight these to me. I pay for that shipping. This is a 4-ounce wheel. It retails usually for $15 to $18. So I get a better deal, which is how I'm able to put them on my boards. But they're soft and luxurious. This one is a fig walnut. And I just wanted to show you, this is a lot of times with the fake cheeses, they're filled in order to get the texture with tofu, soy, they have some gluten added in there, all kinds of crazy oils. These cheese wheels are soy-free, GMO-free, gluten-free, dairy-free. The only thing in here is the bacterium that is used to make actual cheeses. These are aged. This is an 8-month aged wheel of cheese. And then the fig part is blended in. The texture and taste and aroma, I don't know if you can smell that through the screen, is outstanding. I was aghast. They have a great heart one that is a dark chocolate raspberry brie that they are sending to me, so I should have those hopefully soon. They only let me get 8 of them, so I'm probably going to eat them all. No, I'll put them on the Valentine's boards. But I just wanted to show you real quick because it's crazy. Let me get one more spoon. And normally, obviously, I would cut this with a knife, but this is our sample board. I wanted everyone to try them. If you can see that this is still a hard cheese. This is not, you know, a vegan spread. This is a hard cheese that has a cheese-like structure as if it's from France or anywhere else. And it's outstanding. And that on a gluten-free cracker or anything else, it really wins people over. And I even have a lot of vegans or plant-based people that are like, no, I don't do cheese boards because I'm vegan. I'm like, well, let me do this. Like, no, I want something more than veggies. So many people think that it's a vegetable platter, and it's not. They're great. So there's about 5 or 6 different companies that I order from, and a great number of foam meats as well that, again, are soy-free, gluten-free, dairy-free. I do keto boards where I keep the fruit a little low, so it's mostly blueberries, all that kind of stuff. But I'm still an actor. So all this kind of stuff is still side hustle, I guess you could say, but it's not like, hey, you want to buy a watch? It's still stuff that I'm passionate about, and I think it goes in with my entertainment and the way I eat, because then there's always going to be a better show, whether it's on the stage or on the plate. How's that, Jodes?
Amazing. That was so wonderful. I hope that everybody enjoyed tonight's episode. You know, you may have not had a question yet. Maybe you weren't making the dish alongside Jon. If you do have questions that come up, I'm sure it would be totally fine for you to reach out to him on Instagram. Remember, it's @JonCooksHere. And I highly recommend, if you've enjoyed tonight, go check him out on Instagram because you're definitely going to enjoy what you see there. Jon, thank you so much. I cannot wait to hang up and come in there and try it.
I just dropped it, so no.
I can see you. We will be sending out the recording so that you will have this in your back pocket so you can watch it again. But I also wanted to just thank you guys for being here and to remind you that next month we have Derek Fields, who's going to be talking about defining your journey to fitness and health so that you can eat all of Jon's food and then go work it off with Derek and, you know, never gain any weight, but enjoy all the yummy food that Jon has to offer. So check that out. It's going to be February 18th. Go ahead and register. Derek's a really knowledgeable guy, and I know that you're going to enjoy that one as well. So thank you all for being here. We love you. Good night. Bon appetit.
Bye, everybody.